appointment can help bring everybody together, what could be better? And we want to see this succeed.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question about it. We want it to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of it. And I think the other piece is, in terms of the elected officials and the community boards, is making sure that the priorities that are expressed, especially in a context as we now have an agreement which has kind of cemented time frame for the buildings.
Yeah.
And you mentioned actually that the City Ratner doesn't have the excuse of the contractors doing something wrong or messing up. So that also creates an incentive sometimes for, that kind of dynamic has played out poorly here.
Sure.
So in that context, I'd like to hear a little bit, actually, because you're a developer, Michelle, so I'd love to hear you talking a little bit about how you perceive environmental compliance in relation to this kind of commitment, what the balance is. But I also want to talk about how we work with the elected officials to have them get this priority.
Just as a time check, it's 20 to 10, so I don't think we'll probably continue much past 10 o'clock. So,
And we had a question back there too, but two quick answers. I think this is a $5 billion project over 22 acres impacting multiple community boards. I think the big piece, things that the Dean Street Block Association has requested, I think that the items that were included in comments are related to construction impacts in the SCIS about independent monitoring and reporting back to the community is absolutely critical. I mean, this is just a very significant project. And I think that information should be made available to the public. So that, to me, is a critical piece.
How about like access to meetings and that sort of thing?
Like
access to meetings, like there was construction coordination meetings.
Do I believe that that's something that should happen for the public?
Or if that's something that, the public, or to have like a community representative from the board, or,
I absolutely understand why that would help build trust, based on especially the history that has happened in the project. I can tell you that it's not necessarily something that is typical on smaller scale projects, but this is not that. This is not that. And I think, generally speaking, the government agency is supposed to be representing the public in those construction meetings. Again, I understand why there's the lack of trust that ESDC is doing that, based on the track record. So that's why I think the independent monitoring piece is a critical part of the information. But I think it's a very reasonable request given the history.
And then in terms of the elected officials and prioritizing, because I think there's a concern about, like, I don't mean to monopolize, so we know we have to.
Okay, I want to ask two questions. One about the noise, okay? I live right across the street from the building, corner 6th Avenue and Main. They start at 5 o'clock in the morning. My son gets home at 5 from work. I have 8 windows on the side of my building. There's no way you could sleep. You hear everything and anything. My building shakes, the dust. I mean, it's really crazy. They said they were going to do this way before, that this was going to be fixed. Nothing has been done. That's one. 2 is about the low income. I know a lot of people, they don't care about it, but I do. I live in the block 52 years. Okay? 3 generations. It hurts. Now they want us out. I've been trying to apply to your place for 20 years. The family community used to be on 5th Avenue. My son used to go to 22. You moved. I went over there. I had no account. No one came to me. All I get a lot of things. A lot of it you didn't get. I keep going back. I keep going back. But no one talks to me. I want to speak to somebody in the back. They tell you have to wait. That you're not there. That you're in a meeting. You're not the only one there. There are 3 or 4 people there.
Sure. Let me give you a sense of the demand. So we're completing construction of moderate rehabilitation of 12 units of housing. 12 units of housing, 3 separate buildings. Guess how many people, and 8 of them are available by lottery because 4 of those apartments tenants are returning. Guess how many people applied for 8 units of affordable housing? 29,000 people. 29,000 people applied, right? So it's unfortunate that we can't give individualized attention to 29,000 people.
But in 20 years,
In 20 years.
if 5 people in my family that live on the
But
back
that's
road
my
this
point,
time, you know?
But that, I'm sorry that.
I heard that 20 years.
And now, excuse me, but now you're saying that the low income is 80,000. 20 years ago, it wasn't like that.
No, what I said was that the area median
For 4
income.
families, that's what we have.
Right, the area median income for New York City for
Yeah.
HUD is about
85.
85,000.
Yeah, but like 20 years ago,
Right, it's
nobody
much
would
lower.
touch me.
It was much.
Nobody
lower.
wanted me. Believe me.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay? At that time, I was making money. Now I'm disabled. I can't afford nothing. I can't touch nothing. And I don't want to go nowhere. So what's going to happen with me now? You understand what I'm saying? The noise and everything. I'm going through everything. You know, a lot of people here might not care, but I do care.
He lost family who were.
My brother used to live in the corner on Dina
To
6.
get out.
And there was only 2 families there. He didn't get a penny. But he lives on, we have to do something.
And there's not supposed to be construction at 5 o'clock. in the
There
morning.
is. My son comes home from work at 5 and there's
No, there's not
construction
supposed to be.
across the street.
Yeah, and in terms of, I mean, we've had a number of, I mean, you guys are familiar with a couple of the situations that have happened on Easter. I think Nancy, you're related to?
Yeah,
You're both related to a woman who
Oh,
stayed in a
lost
building.
family.
Yeah, my cousin, that's my arm.
Terrible stories. This is really one of the reasons why we do, our block association is economically very diverse.
Sure.
And we truly do want the affordable housing to have as low brackets as possible, which is one of the concerns about the timetable and the risk that the timetable actually interferes with affordability. But when we, do you understand my point? Like if
AMI historically has gone up much more than, so HUD AMI for the city of New York plus the metropolitan area has gone up much more than area median income in Brooklyn. So it's actually the opposite, right? So if the project's done faster, because incomes are, it means that it will be more deeply affordable to Brooklyn's current residents.
in theory, but in a
Not just in theory.
No, I understand your point, and I'm not an affordable housing expert, absolutely. But in this context, the project's feasibility is more challenged for a number of reasons than it is in other situations. This is a unique project. It's proven that over and over and over again. So, I mean, anyway, I think we should give more people time to discuss.
Yeah, I just had, you said that you sit on the board of the city planning commission now. What sort of like, is that purely advisory or is there actual?
City Planning Commission votes on land use decisions.
Like now if a construction project has violations and things like that, you don't have any?
Yeah, that would be the Department of Buildings.
And so then that would be the same case in Atlantic Yards. The Department of Buildings would be the agency that would enforce penalties for violations or, I mean, I guess I just, you talked about teeth before. I mean, and I guess I'm skeptical that any sort of meaningful enforcement for violating whatever laws is going to actually produce any result because we haven't seen it yet. So I guess that's one of our biggest, gripes about all of this. It's like, yeah, okay, you have an environmental monitor, they collect data. Even if we see the data, will anything actually change on the ground for people living here?
Yeah, it's the real-time effect of the
Yeah.
day-to-day that you're referring to.
Or not even real time. I mean,
Just the day-to-day period.
or just any sort of real remedies is, I just am very skeptical.
That's why we're emphasizing the need to have coordination between the state and the city. That really is the piece that didn't fit during arena construction. And it is all the city agencies that are responsible for that oversight. It is the Department of Buildings, the Department of Transportation, the DEP, and we need to find a way at this point to build that coordination. That's the bottom line, and that need would exist no matter who the oversight is. But in this case, having representative oversight enables us to be more, hopefully enables the CDC to be more effective in understanding the nature of those impacts. We still need the coordination, and that's the thing that we really are going to have to work on the city for.
So hopefully we can all work on
That
that
would be a
together.
priority.
We don't want,
Back to your priorities?
we don't want to
that's
see
the
another
priority.
family have to leave Dean Street. We're not gonna, it's over. We're not gonna let that happen anymore. And we want to work together, and we don't want construction at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we don't want our building shaking, and we want to know the environmental impacts as the construction moves forward. That's paramount to what we're thinking. And I think at this point, Dave, it would be a good idea for us to all agree to work together to make sure that we're all on the same page, and we're all watching together and taking action together and acting as a community. And that's really what I wanted to say.
So to follow that up, why isn't it a joint meeting scheduled? Wouldn't that be the most productive way to continue to move this forward with some degree of speed? Because I'm very skeptical counting on the state and the city. I hear you, I just don't buy it.
Well, there's no substitute for it, unfortunately. I mean,
I realize that.
Certainly there's. So the thing is, again, I mean, there are certain pieces of the problem that we can solve through the things that we did here in terms of bringing about the change in the build, the extended build, and a new agency.
No, we
for
agree, you
oversight.
can't solve this. I think you need a much larger
Right,
group, a
right.
much more powerful group.
It's,
And that's why I
right.
suggest.
And so from our point of view, we look at the CDC as being the platform for how that
I
should,
understand.
how that should move forward. And
Yeah.
to the extent that we all can, sort of speak with a voice and shape it and be,
Right.
and at least for now, go into it looking for it to be successful. I think we have the best together as a community, we have the best shot that way.
In the spirit of trusted cooperation, I just want to say that in the past 3.5 years, my wife and I have lived in the community. The Atlantic Yards Watch.net website was a fantastic and key resource for community members to communicate with the developer via or through a conduit to document the project and share infractions and all kinds of really positive things. My understanding is that that's not happening right now. How can we fix that?
That's not correct. The Atlantic Yards Watch is still up. You can continue to submit citizens reports on Atlantic Yards Watch. Nothing has changed. In fact, anyone right now.
And 311, and documented through 311.
Yeah, but anyone can now go to Atlantic Yards Watch. You can register instantly. You don't have to wait for approval. You can submit an incident report right away.
Is it being used in that way?
Where does it go?
In the same,
I mean, it's
Same way it has
really a community resource. So we're not, it's for the community to use. But to answer your question in terms of where incident reports go, yes, when incident reports are submitted, they are sent to ESDC, they're sent to the DOT, they're sent to NYPD, and they're sent to City Ratner.
I just have one question. You did a very
That's been
good job,
effective.
seems to be, building the team to be affordable housing complex. Is there a way, given your background, is there a way to do the same thing to do with the environmental issues and the other infractions that seem to always happen? In other words, if you were given a blank slate and they asked you to design something that will protect the community.
I think part of what we have to remember is that the environmental infractions, if you will, are they're baked into existing legislation or rules, right? And so part of it is enforcing those existing rules and legislation,
But there are no penalties.
There can be. I mean, it's really about getting government to do its job. That's really what it's about.
But and I guess what.
I appreciate the question.
In real
For
time.
every day, for this lady, at 5 o'clock in the morning, if there's a rule that says somewhere you can't start your construction until whatever time, what does she need to do to get that enforced without feeling like she's calling into a void?
Well, one thing that you could do,
Yeah.
your organization could do in the efforts to try to get the Dean Street Block Association back, feeling like there's a real bond of trust, is to be an advocate for these things that are so dear to us. So it seems like you've taken the lead in the affordable housing, which is you've been with.
Which is
you may-
core to our vision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think you guys did a great
You
job.
did a great job of that, but
Yeah.
given the script that developed as a result of that, maybe now you can sort of pledge and, you know, certainly since you may be closer to the process, if there's, and the people, if there's a way that you can pledge to do that on our behalf, because those are the issues that are so dear to us.
I can tell you that the, you know, the affordable housing piece and the accountability piece, and I appreciate that people want more on the accountability piece. That wasn't something that needed to be included at all, right? We could have had an agreement just on the affordability piece, but because this was a coalition, Brooklyn Speaks is a coalition of affordable housing advocates and civic associations, right? We saw the value in trying to advance both goals through this effort. And I appreciate, again, I deeply appreciate that until the CDC is actually up and running and the proof is in the pudding, there's going to be tremendous doubt about whether or not we're going to see any of the accountability or transparency that we've all been longing for a decade. I get it. And so I think we need to continue to advocate, we need to continue to consult, we need to continue to, whenever possible, speak with one voice. But the reality is, right, I mean, the organization I have the privilege of leading is an organization dedicated to economic and social justice, right? It has a different purpose.
We
It has a different
understand that.
purpose than civic organizations,
Yeah, we understand
right?
that.
And when our interests align, then we absolutely, positively should move forward. And I think as it relates to ensuring that this community and the communities surrounding the project are livable for people, right? That it's sustainable, affordable, our interests align, right? And we should try to speak with one voice and move forward.
And I would just like to add, from the point of view of our organization, although we've done many other projects in Prospect Heights, we designated a historic district here, we've done a lot with transportation, we've done other, but by far and away, the most resources we've put into anything has been Atlantic Yards. And significant resources around the ideas of construction impacts. We led the lawsuit in 2009 in the MGPP on the basis of being able to ameliorate 25 years of construction impacts because of what it would mean for the local community. Now, you talk about the remedies on the affordable housing that are part of this agreement, but the fact is those are actually the remedies that get the project done in 2025. So those remedies are also saving the community for 10 more years of, if I could. So we're a little different than the Fifth Avenue Committee. We're a civic organization. We don't have any paid staff. We raise money for everything we do, but most of us all volunteer our time to do these things. I will tell you just personally the amount of time it takes to do things like organize litigation, to do things like run Atlantic Yards Watch, to find consultants like Sandstone. It's a significant amount of time. We're not done with Atlantic Yards. We're going to do more. Now, I personally really regret the fact that I think there is a perception that when we entered into this settlement, we somehow left everybody on Dean Street in the dust. It's not the case. We made some very important gains on this that were things we have fought together with you all with for many years, but we're not done. We don't think we're done. And we will continue to work on this. We recognize so we'll work as a coalition.
Your time is running
I
out.
I
I'll go
just
right.
really think that what people need to hear now, or it sounds to me, is that Brooklyn Speaks, and that includes all of the members of Brooklyn Speaks, are committed to addressing the issues that are right here, because the settlement purports to address them. And to the extent that the settlement purports to provide oversight, including all of these issues, we need to commit and make clear what we're committing to do and how we're going to commit to do that moving forward to address these issues. It's not over because we got before a board, it's not over because we got a board, agreed to. Now we pressure the board to make sure that it's really effective and addresses all of these issues. So I think what would be really helpful to develop that trust would be some specific commitments, and maybe we can't make them right this second, but whether we set up another meeting or whatever it is, or a joint board meeting or a community meeting, where we really make clear what we are gonna do, what each of our organizations is gonna do, what individuals wanna do, what we can contribute to make sure that this new CDC is effective and addresses these
Exactly.
issues.
Yeah.
So we